The mainstream media has carefully crafted a glowing legacy for Barack and Michelle Obama, but what if the truth isn't as noble as they want you to believe? Tucker Carlson's recent guest shattered the carefully maintained illusion, exposing hypocrisy, financial scandals, and the exploitation of identity politics. In this deep dive, we'll uncover the shocking contradictions behind the Obama empire and the political elites who profit from deception. Stay with us because by the end of this, you'll see the pattern that connects them all. Let's get started.
Well, Michelle Obama goes to Princeton for free and has been in the ruling class her whole life. And she's still lecturing you about how she's a victim of racism. Hillary Clinton, exact same thing. Goes to Wellesley, spends her entire life in the ruling class, and she's still whining about how she's discriminated against. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, and did you ever see, they'll have like pictures of side by side, but it'll be like pictures of like Jimmy Carter's house and Obama's house.
Exactly.
And it totally represents something about the like corroding of our soul. That you're like, we would allow people who call themselves public servants, which of course is ridiculous, they're not, but still they don't even have to pretend to keep up a facade of that. Like you get to live in this insane like mansion off what? Because you were president and you get to cash in on that now?
In a white neighborhood, you should be required to live in the hood if you're Barack Obama and
if you're using that card.
You use that card. The only reason you got elected was because of your race. You spent your entire 8 years inflaming race hate in our country, and then you go to Martha's Vineyard, the whitest zip code in the world? Not allowed. You're not allowed to do that.
Why do these figures, who are undeniably among the most powerful and privileged people in America, constantly push victimhood narratives? According to Tucker, this is a carefully orchestrated strategy. By positioning themselves as victims, they maintain influence over their supporters, keeping them emotionally invested in a never-ending struggle. The truth? They are far from oppressed, and their narratives serve only to consolidate power and wealth. When Barack Obama took office in 2008, his net worth was estimated at $1.3 million, typical for a U.S. senator. But fast forward to today, and suddenly, he's worth over $70 million, if not more. That's quite the financial leap for someone who spent most of his career as a government employee. The official explanation? Book deals and speaking fees. But as Tucker pointed out, political elites have well-oiled financial machines working behind the scenes, backroom deals, influence trading, and hidden financial back channels. The question remains, if Obama is truly about fairness and equality, why does he continue to accumulate vast amounts of wealth while claiming to fight for the average American?
You know, Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, first of all, it was just leaving how you feel about the guy aside, it was an amazing campaign. It was unlike anything that had ever been run before.
It was genius.
Yes, it was totally brilliant. It was now, of course, it wasn't what they presented it as. It wasn't like a grassroots campaign. He was approved of by the powers that be. He didn't just happen to, as a junior senator, get like a primetime speaking slot in 2004 where he gave that speech.
He wasn't even a senator yet.
Was he a state senator still at the time?
That's when I first met Barack Obama. Walking
Okay.
down the street, smoking a cigarette in Boston on my way to dinner at the Palm. I'll never forget it. And I met him and Jesse Jackson Jr. They pulled over to say hi to me.
Really?
I'd never heard his name, and I covered politics for a living.
Right.
And he gave the keynote at the end of that week. That was Sunday night. He spoke on Thursday. And he was not a U.S. senator.
Identity politics has become one of the most lucrative industries in modern history. And the Obamas, Clintons, and Bidens are cashing in big. The guest exposed how victimhood has turned into a multi-million-dollar empire. By pushing narratives of oppression, these political figures build massive support bases, write best-selling books, land media deals, and command outrageous speaking fees. Every speech about systemic racism and inequality fills their pockets while doing little to actually help struggling Americans. The irony? The more they talk about oppression, the richer they become. It's not about change. It's about keeping the narrative alive to sustain their influence and wealth.
It's sort of like elect the black guy and get past the race stuff. I loved that.
Well, especially because that was his message.
That was his message.
And let's get past the race stuff.
I love that.
He goes, there was a broader, more unifying thing. I mean, I remember because he was such a powerful, public speaker. I mean, he never really said anything. But it would still be beautiful.
Yes.
I remember in his acceptance speech at 2008 at the DNC, we had this whole line where he was like, He was like, I love this country, and so do you, and so does John McCain. The men and women who have fought for this country have been Republicans and Democrats and independents, but they fought together and died together, not defending a red America or a blue America, the United States of America. And it's like, and then it's like, I mean, he didn't really say anything there, but but it was beautifully put.
I'm 100% for that.
Yeah, the message was great. And
Obama's 2008 campaign was groundbreaking, selling the idea that America could move past racial divisions. It worked. He won with overwhelming support from people of all backgrounds. But what happened after? Instead of uniting the country, Obama's second-term campaign took a sharp turn. With little to run on, his administration pivoted to identity politics, fueling racial tensions rather than resolving them. Policies and narratives that once promoted hope suddenly became focused on division. Why? Because a divided nation is easier to control. When people are distracted by manufactured cultural conflicts, they don't notice the real problems, like the growing wealth and power of the political elites pulling the strings.
But then I think essentially what happened, and it was around Obama's re-election campaign, this is where things really went off the rails in this country, was that he got in there and continued and expanded all the worst of the Bush policies.
Oh, of course.
And so they almost had nothing to run on, and so they decided to pivot to a culture war instead. And this was a decision, and again, I don't know exactly what the conspiracy is, but this decision was made from the top down. That I think it was a response to Obama's failures. It was a response to these movements like the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street, which were getting a little bit too close.
That's right.
A little bit too close to the target. And all this, I'm sure you've looked at this before, but where there's these nexus charts and you can chart out like how many times all the woke terms are used.
On the other hand, Michelle Obama claims she lives in fear for her daughter's safety in America. This statement alone should raise eyebrows.
I know that people in the Black community don't feel that way because many of us still live in fear as we go to the grocery store or worry about walking our dogs or allowing our children to get a license. I mean, just imagine.
Aren't your girls driving?
They're driving. Yeah. But every time they get in a car by themselves, I worry about what assumption is being made by somebody who doesn't know everything about them. The fact that they are good students and polite girls, but maybe they're playing their music a little loud. Maybe somebody sees the back of their head and makes an assumption. I, like so many parents of Black kids, have to, that the innocent act of getting a license puts fear in our hearts.
Her daughters have Secret Service protection, unlimited resources, and access to the best security in the world. Meanwhile, millions of Americans actually struggle with daily violence, economic instability, and real insecurity. Michelle's words paint a picture of a reality she doesn't live in. The problem? People believe her, and the media amplifies these fears, deepening the divide between races and classes. The reality is that the Obamas are among the safest, most privileged people on the planet. If they are afraid, what does that mean for the rest of us? Barack Obama charges $400,000 per speech. Michelle Obama, up to $700,000. The Clintons, over $230 million in speaking fees alone. What exactly are they saying that's worth that much? The answer is simple. They're not being paid for their speeches. They're being paid for their influence. Corporations and foreign entities don't just want to hear their words, they want access, favors, and influence over policy decisions. It's a pay-to-play system disguised as public speaking. And guess what? The average American isn't invited to this game. While regular people struggle to pay bills, these elites rake in millions by selling access to their political power. The real money isn't just in speeches, it's in book deals, media partnerships, and so-called charitable foundations. The Obamas signed a $65 million book deal immediately after leaving office. The Bidens raked in $16 million in just 2 years. The Clintons turned their charity into a $230 million machine. But what do these foundations actually accomplish? They raise money, pay their executives, and continue to fund political influence while doing little for actual charitable causes. The pattern is clear. These are financial power plays, designed to keep money flowing and influence growing.
I notice a theme here. There are a lot of extremely rich people who are deeply miserable and desperate to have you believe they're victims. What is that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, LeBron James living in Bel Air, he's a victim. Meghan Markle went downgraded from billionaire to multimillionaire. She's a victim. They want you to know that they're all victims. It's because they're trying to distract us. The truth is that they view us as peasants. They're trying to make it seem like, hey, when the peasants turn against us because they're actually robbing all of them, we don't want them to look at us. We want to make them think that we're one of us. They're not one of us. They're nothing like us. They don't live like us. She has nothing that goes on in her life that is similar to the average American, yet she keeps trying to use her skin color and her complexion as a way to make people believe that she's suffering, and she's absolutely not suffering. And everyone should be aware that if you're watching this and you think that LeBron James and Meghan Markle and Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are oppressed, you are a fool. You have been fooled. They are doing just fine.
So the real question is, are people finally waking up to the game, or will the media continue to protect these figures while demonizing anyone who exposes the truth? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this deep dive eye-opening, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.